Hey guys, welcome back to this iOS 10 app development video course. In the previous section, we discussed about the basics of Swift. This is section 3, where we're going to create our first app using a framework called Contacts and Contacts UI. In this section, we'll learn how to read and write contacts on the device. We'll also see how we can use the Contacts UI for use and view controllers, which are already ready to use. Now let's move on to the first video of this section. In this video, we're going to take a look at the idea of the section's project, and we'll prepare the Xcode for developing the app through this section. Contacts framework was introduced on iOS 9. Before that, we had to use another framework called AddressBook. AddressBook was made for being compatible with C, and it was not object-oriented. AddressBook was hard to work with. For these and more reasons, Apple decided to create a new framework called Contacts. Contacts is easier, more object-oriented, and it also comes with another framework called Contacts UI, which gives us some pre-cooked view controllers. Let's start by opening Xcode and create a new app called Section 3. In the first scene, we'll have two buttons. The first button takes us to a list of contacts, and the second one displays a form for creating a new contact. For this video, we'll need to use some pictures. You could download them from packpub.com, unzip them by just double-clicking on the compressed file. If you prefer, you can use your own pictures. On the Project Navigator, search for an item called assets.xcassettes. This is like a container of images, which can control the write image resolution according to the user's device. Click on the Assets container and drag our pictures from the Finder window to the left area of the Assets container. As it was already mentioned, besides the first view controller, we'll need another for adding a new contact. Thus, let's add a new view controller to our project. Type Command N for a new file. Select Cocoa Touch class and create a view controller called Add Contact View Controller. Next, go to the storyboard and let's search on the object library for a view controller and drag it to the storyboard. Remember, we have to set its class. Otherwise, it will just be UI View Controller. Go to its Identity Inspector with Command Option 3, and here on the class field, we could type Add Contact View Controller. Now Control-drag from the new Contact button to this view controller. That way, we can open this view controller whenever the button is pressed. Finally, we would need two UI labels. One would display the word name and the other one would display phone. Two text fields for allowing the user to enter the inputs, and 5 buttons. 3 of the buttons are used for selecting an image, another for saving, and the other to cancel. For the constraints, we could set most components with the same way we learned before. However, for the pictures, we'll place one next to the other. Set the left one. Have it leading to the super view, between buttons. Set a horizontal spacing, and the right one. Have it trailing, and for the first one, set a height. Finally, select all of them and click on the spaceship icon on the bottom right side of the panel, and select equals height and equals width. Now we're going to set the pictures on the buttons. In this case, we would set each button with a different picture by changing the property image to the corresponding picture name. We don't have to specify the image extension PNG. Start by opening the Assistant Editor with the Command Option Enter and connect the name text field with a property named Name Text Field and the phone text field with a property called Phone Text Field. For the buttons, we'll do the same, except that we have to choose the option IB Outlet Collections, which means that all the buttons will be in an array. Let's do it and call this array Pictures. Now we could set the Save and Close button actions, which right now are going to be the same. They'll just return to the previous scene. Both actions just need to call a method, dismissViewController. So write down self.dismissViewControllerAnimated. Set its first argument to true. That way, the transition will be smoother for the user. And completion:0, as the scene is not going to do anything once it's dismissed. Finally, we could set the button's actions. Connect the first one with an action called Picture Selected. Ensure that the sender is a UI button, not any object. Now connect the rest of the buttons with the same method. Have a look to see that they call the same method. The only difference is the sender object is the button which was clicked. Once the user selects a picture, a border will appear. That way the user knows which one was the chosen picture. Based on that, the first thing we have to do is remove the border from all the buttons, and then add it to the sender. First step, iterate over every button of the picture's property with a method called forEach. This method receives a closure, which is called for every button. Here we have to say that its border is size 0, and the border color is a clear color. After that, we have to set the sender border and color following the same idea. Finally, we have to connect the buttons of the first scene with a property. Why? The reason is we can enable and disable them whenever it's necessary. For example, when the app does not have permission to access the contacts. Again, with the Assistant Editor, connect the buttons with an IB outlet collection called Main Buttons. That's it! Press play and check if the app skeleton is working. In this video, we prepared the app, which will be used throughout the section.